Hello, hello, hello to all my uniques out there. This is your girl Akudo. Welcome to your unique wisdom. For today, I'm going to talk about verbal abuse. Remember, we are celebrating domestic violence survivors this month. We are creating awareness about domestic violence. We are saying no to abuse. We are saying no to violence. We are saying no to any and all kinds of abuse. So for this week, I'm going to talk about verbal abuse. My last video, go watch my last video. I talked about physical abuse, signs of physical abuse, how you can identify it. It involves a lot, spitting, kicking, scratching, biting. I talked about that in a video. Go to my channel and go watch that video. But for today is verbal abuse. What is verbal abuse? Most of the time, people don't even know what verbal abuse is because they think the only abuse we are so concerned about is the physical abuse because it's the one everybody sees. Everybody sees the bruise on your finger. Everybody sees your blue eye. Everybody sees the bruise under your nose. So we see that. So that's all we talk about. But today I'm going to tell you what verbal abuse is, and I'm going to give you 11 common patterns of verbal abuse so that my sister, my brother, you will be able to identify it. You will be able to say, I think I'm being verbally abused in this relationship. And then remember, like I always tell you, go out and get help, my sister. Go out and get help, my brother. Nobody says you should stay there and be a statistics. Nobody says you should take it and be a data. Please, please, my uniques, we are creating awareness. If you identify this, there is help out there. Go out and get help. First of all, let me define verbal abuse. Verbal abuse has been defined as the act of forcefully criticizing, insulting, or denouncing another person. It has been defined as the act of criticizing, insulting, or denouncing another person. It is also characterized by underlying anger and hostility. Most of the time, verbal abuse comes from anger and hostility. It went further, it says it is a destructive form of communication intended to harm the self-concept of another person. It is communication, but it is destructive communication with the intention of harming the other person and producing a negative emotion. So when people set out to verbally abuse you, they are saying hurtful words to you so that they can harm you and give you negative emotions. They want to criticize, they want to belittle, they want to put you down, they want to demean you from their words. They might not physically hit you, but they use their words to kill you. My uniques, words hurt. Words hurt so deeply because they go in there, they go in your head, they go in your heart, they hurt you when people say those things to you. And today we are going to know what those words are. And we're going to know the 11 different common patterns of verbal abuse. Love does not hurt. When you love somebody, you don't see them cry, you don't see them hurt, you don't see them, miserable, you don't see them emotionally messed up, you don't see them go through emotional roller coaster. That's not love. Love is patient, love is kind. Love does not keep errors of wrongdoing. Love is patient. Love endures. You take care of each other, you're kind to each other. Love does not hurt, my uniques. Don't let people hurt you in the name of love. That's not love. Remember what he says. He says it is a destructive form of communication that is not allowed in any relationship. It is intended to harm your partner in order to produce negative emotions in that person. Verbal abuse is not allowed. Verbal abuse is not tolerated. Verbal abuse is not wanted, and verbal abuse is not welcomed in our relationships. When you love somebody, You can argue the points. You can argue and disagree to agree or agree to disagree. But you argue the points and not the person. So now let us move on to the 11 common patterns of verbal abuse. The first one we're going to talk about is name calling. Most people love this name calling. Your wife's name is Akudo, or your husband's name is John, or your wife's name is Elizabeth, or your wife's name is something, but you never call her by those names when you're angry. You call her every other name in the book that is not the name her mother gave to her. We call each other stupid, we call each other foolish, we call each other useless, we call each other all kinds of names. My uniques, name calling is a common pattern of verbal abuse. If you didn't know it before, know it today. Name calling, they call you all kinds of names. Every name in the book, it says name calling and being shouted at during arguments. Argue the points and not the person. We might disagree about something in a relationship. Let's argue the points. Tell me why you don't believe this paper is white, and I will tell you why I don't think this paper is white. Argue the facts. Don't leave the paper and start arguing. That's why you're so stupid. That's why you're so dumb. Look at you. You have no brains. You are so stupid. You are an idiot. You are this. You are foolish. You are useless. What does it have to do with the paper? I thought the argument was the paper. Why don't we focus on what the points are and leave the name calling? But that's a way of abuse, because when they call you those names, when they call you names that are not your name or call you out of your name, that's a way of telling you I am superior. You are beneath me. I'm on top. So when I call you those names, I feel good. Remember, hot people, hot people. People that are hot, the way they express their hurt is to hurt other people. When you're angry and you're yelling all kinds of, calling this your partner, your spouse, your life partner, all kinds of name under the book that is not her name, does it make you feel better? Do you not feel you are the boss? Do you not feel you're on top? Do you feel good after doing that? Come on, my unions, let's be real. Let's talk to ourselves. Those names are not necessary. Because you wanted to go outside and she doesn't want to go outside. We can argue why you want to go outside, and I can argue why I want to stay in. Let's argue the points. Let's argue the fact, and let us leave the name calling alone. We love to call names because that is how we thrive. Name calling is one of the common patterns. Then number 2, the next thing we're talking about is manipulation. Manipulation, I'll define that. It says making your partner do or say things they are uncomfortable with doing. And most of the time, manipulation is very subtle. You might not know that they are manipulating you. They have a way of making you feel like your opinion doesn't count. Okay, let us do it this way, forgetting that everybody has something to bring to the table. They will manipulate you, and then it's very subtle. Sometimes it's not subtle. They will do it, under, below, so you won't know. Sometimes it's very, very, obvious. You see them doing it. They want to manipulate you and make you say things you don't want to say, or make you do things. They know you are uncomfortable with doing it. You have expressed to them that you're uncomfortable saying those things, but they want you to do it. They manipulate you. They guilt you into, oh, if you don't do this, you're not making me happy, or you're not doing this. And that is another common pattern of verbal abuse. Number 3 is condescending. Condescension is another common pattern of verbal abuse. That's number 3. And he says he uses sarcastic tone. He uses sarcasm. You're not feeling good today. You use, sarcastic tone to talk to the person. You use sarcasm. You make fun of them. Oh, today, you cooked for us today. Oh, I hope we don't have running stomach for this cooking. You make little side remarks. Those things you say, my uniques, you might think it's fun or you might think it's funny, but your partner is internalizing it. When you try to say those things, you're using sarcasm to put her down. You're using sarcastic tone to put her down. She's internalizing it. And after some time, she is not sure of herself anymore. She starts feeling like, okay, maybe what she starts walking on eggshells. Should I do this? Is he gonna talk about this? Is she gonna talk about it? Sarcasm, is not allowed. That's another form of verbal abuse. Remember, we are talking about the common forms of verbal abuse. The first one I talked about was name calling. The second one I talked about was manipulation. The third one I talked about was condescension. They condescend on you. And now the fourth one I'm going to talk about is criticism. And it says belittling and always being negative. Criticism. There is nothing on this earth you do that is good. If only, honey, this dinner you cooked is fantastic. If only you used turkey gravy. Honey, you cleaned the good very well, but if only you vacuumed before cleaning. The toilets are immaculate clean, but if only you put some spray. There is nothing you do that they don't criticize. And that's another form of verbal abuse. They criticize everything about you. My sister, my brother, put yourself in that person's position. If somebody is constantly belittling you and criticizing you, would you feel good about yourself? Would you feel good about yourself? No, you would not. If everything I do you criticize, oh, you talk too much, oh, you clean too much, oh, the food is not even good, why are you dressed like that, that shoe doesn't look good on you, is your hair messed up, oh my God, he or she is a human being. You keep belittling, after some time they begin to think maybe they are not worth anything, because if their partner sees them this way, then maybe truly they are not worth anything. And why do you want to be in a relationship with somebody that doesn't think highly of themselves? You are the Lord, but the other person is nobody. It doesn't make you feel good. That's not a relationship. So my sister, my brother, the fourth one is criticism. You want to criticize everything. That's another common pattern of verbal abuse. They criticize everything you do. They belittle you. They put everything down. Everything is negative. They only see the negative. They never see the positive about you. Oh, they see when you have added weight. They see when you didn't cook well. They see when you're not raising your children right. They see when your car is messed up. They see when your house is smelling. Everything that is negative, that's all they see, and that's all they want to criticize about. They never see that you are a loving mother. They never see your children love you, or they never see that you are a good father. You might not be rich, but your children love you. They never see you are a handsome father. They never see you take your children to the park. They never see you go out there and you work hard to provide for your family. They never see you, woman, you go out there, you work hard for your family. They don't see all that. All they see is the negative thing about you, so that they can be able to belittle you. Then the fifth one says demeaning comments. They give you some demeaning comments. This one says puts you down with comments that refer to your race or ethnic background, comments that refer to your gender or religious or cultural background. They demean you. Let's say you guys are from two different cultures, or they say things like, oh, this is not your culture. I don't know this culture. What you people do, that culture is whack. That culture is this. That might not be your culture, but that's her culture. That might not be your religion, but that's her religion. That might not be your race, but that's her race. That might not be your ethnicity, but that's hers or that's his. That might not, you see, that's her gender. Or some people will say things like, oh, why am I even arguing with you? Women don't have brains. Like gender bias, like because she's a woman, so she can't think, she's not smart, she cannot come to a logical conclusion. Things like that. That demeaning comments, that's another form of verbal abuse. They demean you. They say derogatory things about you, either your culture, your religion, your race, or they will say, black people don't do this, or black people look like this, or black people do the other one, because they want to belittle you. They want to demean you and make you feel small, feel unnoticeable, feel that you don't matter. And then the sixth one said threats. I'm going to read this one. Threats can be recognized most of the time, because most of the time you hear him say, if you do this, oh, I'm gonna do this to you. Don't let me do this to you. Don't let me slap you. Don't let me do this. Don't let me do this. Those are threats that you can see. But there are subtle threats you don't see, and we don't know that those are also verbal abuse. When your partner threatens you with his life, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. If you walk away on me, I'm just gonna die. If you do this, I'm gonna do this. If you do that, I'm gonna lock your cat outside the house. If you do that, I'm gonna take your car keys and you're not going anywhere. Those are also threats. It might not be a threat directly to you. It might also be a threat of their own life. They can threaten their own life just to make you feel like, okay, I have to stay, I can't do anything because I don't want him to hurt himself or do something to himself. That's a subtle way of also threatening you. Not only do they come out and say, don't do this, I'll do this. They are now using their lives. Oh, if you do this, if you call the cops on me, if you call the cops on me, I'm going to lose my license, then I'm not going to be providing for the family. And yet they are not trying to stop what they are doing. They are not trying to stop the physical abuse. They still want to hit you. They still want to spit on you. They want to kick you. But every time you want to call the police for help, they say, oh, no, no, no. If you call the police now, I'm going to lose my license. If I lose my license, how am I going to provide for you guys? My sister, that's also a threat. That's a subtle way of threatening you, and that's a subtle way of manipulating you, because they want to get you to receive the physical abuse, but they don't want you to call the cops so they can get the consequences of what they are doing. That's number 6. And then let's go to number 7. Number 7, another form is blame. They blame you for everything. I'm going to read this one. This one says, this is the most common form of verbal abuse, and it involves constantly putting the blame for one's action onto their partner instead of taking responsibilities for them. I'm going to read that again. It says it involves constantly putting the blame for one's action onto the next person instead of taking responsibility. They will hit you, physically abuse you, and then they'll turn around and say, see what you made me do. See what you made me do. I didn't want to hit you, but you were not listening. You see what you made me do. It's always your fault. It's always the other partner's fault. See what you made me do. I had to lock you outside. You see, because you didn't listen. Now I have to take your keys. You can't go to work today. See what you made me do. It's always somebody else's fault. They project the blame onto you of their own action. They never take responsibility for nothing. It's always you. If you didn't do this, I wouldn't have done this. If you listened to me and cooked my meal when I wanted it, I wouldn't have hit you. Why would I hit you if you cooked my meal? Why? Let me tell you, my sister, let me tell you, my brother, that is the most common kind of verbal abuse. They blame you for everything under the sun. If they are tired, if they are going to work and their tire burst, it's your fault, because why didn't you check the tires before they left for work? If they go to work and their boss yelled at them because they were late, it's your fault, because if you cooked the breakfast early and he had it early, he wouldn't have been stuck in traffic and he wouldn't have gone to work late. If he goes to work and he does something wrong and they write him up, it's your fault, because yesterday night when he came home, you did not cook dinner on time, so he didn't go to sleep, he didn't have enough rest, he wasn't thinking logically, and he made a boo-boo at work, and now they are yelling at him. Everything that goes wrong in his life or your or her life, they blame the other person. They never take responsibility. It's always about you, and never themselves. Never. That's another common form of verbal abuse. Number 8 says accusations. They accuse you for everything under the sun. I read this one. It says, this comes from severe jealousy. Most of the time, it's accusation about your cheating or you're doing something. You looked at that person, you smiled at that person. Most of the time, it says it comes from severe jealousy. Repeated accusations are a form of verbal abuse. When they have accused you and they saw how you reacted to it, they keep accusing you, because that's now a way of manipulating you. The first time they accused you, let's say they accused you that you were cheating on them, and you know you were not cheating on them, and they know you were not cheating on them, but they just threw out that accusation, and they saw how it made you, it mellowed you down, it calmed you down, you didn't say nothing. Now is their weapon of choice. Several accusation upon accusation. He says constantly accusing you. They said repeated accusations are form of verbal abuse. Being accused of something often leads to a partner to start questioning themselves. When they keep accusing you all the time, when they keep accusing you all the time, then you start feeling unsure of yourself. You now begin to think, okay, what's going on? What do I do? What did I do wrong? They are always accusing me of something or the other. What would I do next? So accusation is another form.